who generally does the school run on a bike in Wirral. Am I right?
Actually, no. My eldest I did, but my youngest prefers to walk. So
Okay.
I walk now, but it was cycling to school that really kind of radicalised me, if that's the right word to use.
Okay, well, I'm interested to hear that. And you're with me in the studio, and it's great. It's great to have guests in the studio again. We've been saying this today, to have real people face to face. It's brilliant. So thanks for coming in. So you've got a perspective of both cycling and walking.
Yes, and I've got a car as well, but I never use it for the school run because we live within half a mile, so it's not an option, really. But it was riding to school with my eldest lad, William, with Jacob on the seat behind me on my bike that kind of really turned me on to the horror, really, of our roads.
So take me through it. I know you videoed it and you have put some of the films that you made out there so people can see what your journey was like. But for people who haven't seen what it was like for you to go do the school run on a bike, tell me about it.
Well, yeah, so Will, my eldest, got to the point where he's a really good little rider, and it was either we start walking to school, or we ride on the pavements that were really busy, obviously, or we start riding on the roads. You know, like the council are telling us to ride to school with your kids. It's great fun. So I kind of took the bolshy view of, okay, let's ride on the roads then. So and I at the time I was riding to work, and I had a little camera on my rucksack to record my ride just in case something happened, and had this idea of clipping the camera onto his rucksack and filming it from his perspective.
So a 6-year-old's viewpoint of
That's
what
right.
it looks like cycling to school.
So it's actually the pinned video on my Twitter. If you go to @EdwardLamb, you can watch it. And it's the first day I did it, I remember loading up the footage and like being blown away by the scale of the cars from his perspective. Amazing. So we kind of kept it up for 6 months or so, and I made this short film of his ride to school, which, like, in amongst all the horror and the kind of craziness, I do love our walk and ride to school still. It's like my favourite time of the day. So it ends on a little happy note, the video, but it does highlight the kind of madness of traffic around schools, which, it's crazy.
So cars are bigger than kids anyway. Cars are bigger than kids on bikes. But what about the behaviour of the drivers and the way that they treated a kid on a bike?
Well, there's actually one driver in the video that I reported to the police. It was that bad, the past that he inflicted on my little lad, which was just crazy, really. Generally, it's fine, you know, and people kind of wave and let us through, but kind of once a week, something that would happen that I wasn't happy with. Every now and again, it would kind of end in kind of arguments, that kind of thing. Someone opened their door on him once, and he kind of whacked into the door. I didn't get that on film. I was gutted. He was fine. But it's just not the kind of thing, you know, that you should have to put up with on your way to school. We have so much in place around safeguarding and safety for kids, but there's this massive black hole around the trip to school, which is just filled with danger.
So what did you learn from that experience, and what have you learned from your experience of trying to get your kids to school safely, not in a car?
It took me all sorts, really. I was listening before I came in about the parking charter and stuff. My wife, Bethan, is a teacher at a primary school as well in Williston, and they have a parking charter. And as cool as they are, they don't work. They're not enough, because you get a new generation, a new kind of load of parents come in every year. Old habits kind of form again. You need politicians and the council that have control over the roads to step in and start acting on this stuff. And I get that gets tricky, because it's the politics of car use is feisty and crazy. So yeah.
So, and it's interesting to me as well, looking at the sort of policy and the powers. And Wirral Council, and you live in Wirral Council do on this appear to me to be the ones that are actually sort of going for it and trying to use legislation and powers to at least enable traffic wardens or officers to issue fines for moving vehicles, which is at least something.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there are some issues around that, but it's a stick approach.
It is, yeah. I think you do need carrot and stick with this stuff when we're talking about the wider issue of people walking and cycling more, getting the bus, leaving the car at home, or not having a car at all. You do need carrot and stick. There's way too much carrot stuff that you see from councils because A, they're kind of stuck for cash at the moment, and B, people don't want to leave their cars at home. You know, it's so easy to hop in your car in it and have that nice, warm, cosy environment where you can just go anywhere you want.
And then you've got to go to work. I mean, that is the reality for a lot of people, that it's almost, I mean, Steve Rotherham said yesterday when we were speaking to him about it, he felt sometimes parents wanted it to be a drive-through experience, like a McDonald's drive-through, where you sort of sail past the school, kick your kids out at the school gate and then drive on to work without barely stopping the car itself.
Yes.
And I think people, you know, we all want convenience and we're all stressed. And at that time in the morning, you just need to get to where you need to be. Mm-hmm. So there will always be people who want to drive to school. Always, always. We can't, I don't think, I mean, you might disagree, but I don't think you can get rid of that.
Well, you can, but it takes guts. And it does take a community effort as well. You know, we can't do this stuff on our own. I'm actually standing to be a councillor next year. I got so enthused by this stuff.
And this was the issue that really kick-started your...
It was, yeah, and it got me thinking about all the wider issues around it, not just the safety, the issues around air pollution, the biggest issue of climate change itself, which isn't going to go anywhere soon. So I just started thinking about it in such a kind of a broad way that I thought I've just got to get stuck in. I actually work in sustainable transport now as well, so
it's your whole life.
It is.
So
yeah. My poor wife has to put up with all sorts of crazy stories, and yeah, bless her.
So if you were in charge then, Ed, finally before you go, what would you do then? Would you if you could close the roads around every school every day, twice a day?
Primary schools, yeah, tend to be on like residential streets. Some of them are on main roads, which will be harder. They're bus routes, that kind of thing. But yes, school streets for every primary school. Low traffic neighbourhoods to kind of filter all the other residential streets. We need lots of 20-mile-an-hour zones. We need more school buses for secondary schools. We need cycle tracks on every single main road as soon as possible, so like teenagers can independently go to school on a bike or a scooter, that kind of thing. So we've got a lot of work to do. But I guess the thing that really enthuses me about this stuff is that if we do all these things, the world will be a much better place, you know, cleaner air, healthier people, you'll get to know your neighbours loads better. Local businesses will do better because more people can visit, that kind of thing. So I get really frustrated, but at the same time excited because all this stuff is dead. It's really good, you know.
Well, let's see if councils are brave enough to grab the metal on this and do something and take some action on it. Ed, thanks very much indeed for coming into the studio. That's Edward Lamb from Wirral, who, as we say, has cycled to school and walked to school with his children. It's just after 5:30.